Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What's something you don't think you'll ever do again in your life? Say yes when my gut is telling me no. I did the wild cave tour at Mammoth Cave, where it's like a 6-hour caving adventure, and I'll never do it again. I didn't think I was claustrophobic, but crawling through spaces so narrow, you have to lay flat on your stomach and shimmy your body, with no room to even lift your head or turn around. Never again. Some of the areas you crawl through are so tiny, but they actually have height and chest circumference limits so people don't get stuck. Nightmare scenario. I would never... Lining up early in the day at a concert with general admission tickets so I can get to the front row. Then never leaving that spot for the entire concert so I can hold my spot while the main act performs. See Metallica 24 times live. Always did this in the early years until I realized you can still enjoy it just as much further away where you can breathe low. I got sick at a concert inside an arena one time. The acoustics, sitting in the bathroom, were the best I'd ever heard at a concert. A pair of earplugs make it so much better if you don't want to be stuck in the bathroom, lol. I prefer Orgasm brand made for concerts. Heroin. Been sober since November 17, 2018, and my life is better than it's ever been. Edit. Thank you to everyone who has given me updates and awards. I've read through and been able to identify with so many who have commented. When you're stuck in that lifestyle, you honestly believe that you can't survive without it. Now looking back, I don't know how I survived so long with it. Extremely lucky. Yeah, I had a great uncle who couldn't kick the habit and died from complications at 62. To be fair, he did almost every drug, so making it to 62 is an achievement in of its own. Feed my dog puppuccinos at Starbucks. His farts in the car after were death. You were playing games with nature that shouldn't be played. Why does no one ever talk about this? Climb Stairway to Heaven in Hawaii. I took the legal route. There were several escarpments and super narrow trails. One bad step and you can die up there. Based my entire sense of self-worth on somebody else. It wrecked me. Hopefully chemo, in remission for 3 years now, still going strong. Edit. Thank you for all the love. I feel that, man. Got 3 more treatments to do before I'm free. But I'm in remission. Today is my 4-year cancer anniversary. Stage 3 at age 25. Here's to many more negative scans for both of us. Let's fucking go, science girl. Negative scans forever. I feel you. Stage 3 at 21. We got this. Pick up and snuggle the kids. They're grown now with kids of their own. My 17-year-old was having a rough time and she asked me to come cuddle. I've never moved so fast in my life. She hasn't asked for a cuddle in years. Or, my 3-year-old told me she didn't want to cuddle at bedtime last night, so this made me slightly teary. Hope the cuddle made her feel better. Sometimes 3-year-olds do that, but that doesn't mean it's over. Yet, have hope. My 10-year is 5'2", so rapidly becoming difficult to pick up. Now he likes to try to pick me up. Kids are weird, love. My mum was never a cuddler or very affectionate. I could have definitely used some cuddles as a teen. At some point in every parent's life, you set your kid down, not knowing that was the last time you'll ever hold them. My husband will pick up and even carry our kids whenever they ask. My 9-year-old's feet will be dangling down around his knees, and he'll be staggering along, and I'll say, put him down. He's huge, and my husband always says he'll always carry him no matter what, because one day he'll stop asking. Skydive. Biggest rush, but once is enough. My wife went tandem skydiving and her main chute didn't open and they had to use the reserve. Then, about a year later, her friend called her and said one of the instructors they had went with had died in an accident. Holy I shit on a swivel stick. What if the reserve doesn't work either? You see, this is what scares me shitless about skydiving. Friends have done it and always try to get me to join. But I'm like, nope, cause I already know. If someone's chute isn't gonna open or malfunction, it's gonna be mine. Like I already know. That's just how it is, and I don't particularly want to know how it feels to bounce my face off the surface of the earth right now. There's always the chance the second doesn't work too. However, IARC, the second chute, is required to be packed by an FAR certified member, and they have to be re-inspected every 6 months, or end time they're used. The initial chute is packed in-house. The 2 places I've been, you get set up right where they're packing the chute is, so you can see the process. Here, look at how well this guy is packing your jute. See how he gets the W-fold perfect and ensures the strings have a maximum 6% twist torsion. 4. This was my first thought as well. I really enjoyed it and might do it again for free, but no way I'm paying $400 a second time. Haha. I found it so fucking unpleasant, quite frankly. The free fall part and the yank of the parachute opening specifically. It was uncomfortable as fuck. I felt like the harness was digging in. Like I don't feel I genuinely enjoyed the experience because I kept being drawn to the discomfort of my body. Though after the chute was opened, it was pretty cool. I liked that bit. This happened to me. Harness straps were not tight enough and yank, and I was trying to find my testicles in my neck. Paragliding is a much better option. Get married. I lost my husband to cancer 7 years ago when he was 48 and I was 45. I can't imagine ever loving someone that much again. I can relate. My husband passed away unexpectedly when I was 38 and he was 41. That was 12 years ago, and I can't imagine getting married again, but my kids are still young, so who knows what the future will bring when I'm an empty nester. My mother and 3 of my siblings died when I was young. My father was in his mid-20s. He remarried at 45, I believe. I've never seen him happy till then in my life, I will say. As his kid, I have nothing but happiness for his newfound love. I'm so sorry for your loss. I wish you and your children all the best. My mum passed 4 years ago and my dad is still heartbroken every day. My mum passed 17 years ago. In that time, my dad still wears his wedding ring and has not dated. He says there's no point as he could never again have what he had with my mum. Oh, such a blessing and a curse to love someone that's no longer here. Ride a roller coaster. Y'all take care of your back because when it goes, your life choices are reduced. Yep, I've gotten muscle spasms just from moving the wrong way. I won't even go to an amusement park anymore. Apparently there is a proper way to do everything. I know all of the improper ways to sneeze, cough, stand, turn, look, laugh, breathe, sit, lay down, get up and hokey pokey. You're supposed to turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. My Gen X self rode a tilt. A whirl 2 months ago. Currently receiving Pete for vestibular therapy. I always loved roller coasters. But about 15 years ago, I took my girls to Orlando and rode every coaster at Universal. I remember thinking to myself, I really don't enjoy this anymore. That was the last time. I just posted this Laumeo. That Hulk ride is absolutely abysmal. I might have enjoyed it a few years ago, but I would rather shit in my hands and clap than ride it again. Shit in my hands and clap will now be my new go-to statement of what I would rather do. God damn, that's funny. So much this. If you've had surgery in your lower abdomen, specifically women, you need to learn about the pelvic floor and how much your body gets phased if its strength isn't built back up properly, especially after childbirth. Trust the electric company to trim the oak trees in my front yard. They chopped down 2 mature trees and left the firewood in a giant pile in the driveway as a favor. Fuck you, Duke Progress Energy. Fuck you. I'm so sorry. I've known other people have the same experience with trees being trimmed. There's a sense of grief and frustration. I ran pie off a ranch over this. Was a big to-do. I asked the guys trimming across the street one day, are you going to take the half-dead tree that keeps dropping branches into the street in front of an abandoned house, or just trim around the lines? Their answer? Our motto is clearance, not appearance. The city called me to ask permission to go on my property to evaluate a culvert before repaving the road. I specifically asked them to not cut down the willow that was growing in the adjacent ditch, and they cut it down anyway. A supervisor immediately showed up and promised to plant a new willow tree for me. They did the road work, and I still haven't got my willow tree. I suspect they have forgotten. Literally, suum. Us tree law means war. It will destroy whoever cut that tree. Oh, that ugly old tree. $30,000. There was 5. Oh, then $200,000. My dad has a huge red maple tree on the front lawn and Hydro-Quebec chopped a 90-degree angle out of the 360 circumference the tree had. It looks really ugly now and not sure it'll grow back normal this time. Cocaine edit. I have not done it for over 30 years. I was hooked for a couple years in Florida when it was everywhere and dirt cheap in the 1980s. The thought of it now nauseates me. Yup. I got asked about this from a friend not too long ago. She knew how far I went down that road. She asked if I ever get the urge. It's been like 15 years. I do. But the difference is now it wouldn't be fun. It would be sad, and only in service of an addiction. I lost a good friend a couple of years ago from this shit. Heart attack at 40. I don't want to join him. Same. It started out fun and turned into something else altogether. There's a reason you don't see a lot of 40, 50-year-old cokeheads. Either died or smartened up, never going back. I remember doing 4 or 5 grams of that shit over a 3-day weekend. This was about a 6-month bender of using every day in varying amounts. A few years ago and afterwards, my dealer of all people was the one who told me to take it easy, and I think in that moment it just became clear that I had a problem. It took months of relapsing here and there to get clean. I've never experienced anything else like it and the hold it has over you. Still get the urge, especially when I'm having a phase of depression, which is a whole other thing. I just keep reminding myself about how fucked up I was mentally in the midst of it and how much money I wasted on it to keep myself in check. The worst part is, I used to love going to festivals, but I'm afraid to now because I'm certain I'll relapse in that environment. Give birth. Giving birth seems so painful and traumatic. I'm surprised there aren't more one and done it. For me, it was being pregnant. If it was just giving birth, I could do that again. Your body knows what's coming, and it's honestly fine. I mean, it sucks, but it's fine. For me, being pregnant was 9 months of absolute misery, and I never had it in me to do it all again. The postpartum period sucks too. It's basically a 1.5 years of misery. And I looked like hell the whole time, and I'm very vain and basically never want to look like hell. That being said, I probably would have done it again if my husband wanted another baby. But he waited until I was like 38 to suggest another. Right, I kept saying that when I was pregnant. Birth is like one day. Pregnancy was 9 months of misery with a new symptom every day. Nausea, old news, back pain, 8, restless, legs, what if? Oh, you got restless legs under control. Here's some reflux. Salvia divinorum. That shit is fucking wild. I went places on that drug. Then whatever was dwelling in the space I traveled to kicked me the fuck out. Don't have to tell me twice. Here's a review from a website where you can buy salvia I saved a while ago because the story was so insane. I did not write this poem. So before I get into this story, I want to explain my general mindset going into this experience. First off, I was nervous, as I had only heard a few stories about salvia before, and they all sounded frightening, but also ridiculous. Nonetheless, I was very eager to try it. My trip location was my GF's place, a small 2-bedroom apartment, and I was having my brother, he is 15 but trustworthy, trip-sit me to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. I believe I tripped at around 10 o'clock p.m. because after my trip, I would be dropping my brother off at his friend's house to spend the night. And finally, I take Prozac 10 mg once a day for depression, and I am not sure how, if at all, this affected my experience. This was single-handedly the most frightening experience I have ever had. I am a noob to psychedelics. The only psychedelic I had done before this was mushrooms, and that experience was amazing, however very weak, as I only took 1.7. Now this was Fortix, which I was told was perfect to start at. Boy, was I horribly mistaken. I remember everything as if it had just happened yesterday. My brother and I drove to my GF's place around 10 o'clock p.m. and we quickly got everything ready. But before I tripped, I felt like getting extremely high on some Mary Jane. So I grabbed my bong out of my GF's laundry room cabinet and lit up some flame weed. After getting baked, I opened a container of purple sticky salvias and grabbed a big chunk between my fingers. I put it in the bowl, hands nervously shaking, all the while spilling the substance all over the countertop. When I finally had a full bowl of the dark, dry, greyish-green leaves, I got ready to take the hit. I had told my brother to keep me on the couch at all times, as I didn't want to cause any damage to the place while in Salvia land. That was a bad idea. I sat down on the couch, hands still trembling, and grabbed the bong. I lit up the salvia, biggest hit I could, sat back and held it for as long as I could. It couldn't have been more than 15 seconds later that I started to feel something. Start of trip, everything in my peripheral vision started rapidly vibrating, and it eventually covered my entire field of view. I don't even remember exhaling, but managed to yell the words, "Oh dude, oh dude, oh dude," out twice, according to my brother. I never said this. before completely blacking out for a few seconds. My vision was instantly brought from first person to third person, as if it was scrolling out in a video game. I saw myself on the couch from behind when all of a sudden my body just completely snapped into this taco-shaped object at the speed of sound. While hearing a violent crack, however, at the time, I found this hilarious. After I witnessed this, my vision seems to be scrolling out more. It scrolls out until I can finally see darkness surrounding this square image of what was left of my current reality. I start hearing everything that ever existed all at once, flooding and overloading my brain. I heard every sound frequency imaginable. If I could describe it, it would be like a buzz. Soar starting up and reaching its peak, magnified by 1,000,000, multiplied by 1,000,000, multiplied by 1,000,000. The one image of my reality multiplies at indescribable speeds, going and going. It finally reached the point where the division of my reality had reached the edge of the universe, and I felt every single thing that ever existed at once. Every time I swallowed, breathed, moved, etc. Every other reality did the same, however, lagging behind me. It felt as though when I swallowed, every other reality would swallow, and I was feeling that for what felt like literal forever. Imagine a life where all you could do is swallow, non-stop, every day for the rest of your life. That is how it felt to do anything on that couch at that moment. It seemed, however, that the swallowing and what not was starting to get to some ending point, and that my realities had stopped multiplying, too. I felt so relieved for the slightest moment when everything disintegrated from top to bottom. That is when I lost everything I knew. As it reached the bottom, I realized there was a picture behind that disintegration. I caught a slight glimpse of what I was about to be in for. It was me, shaped as some kind of rectangle-like object, laying completely flat, face up and with my arms at my side. It looked as though my body was stuffed and filled to the brim in a see-through coffin. Not only this, but there were about 15-20 completely blue men holding this coffin, but holding it without using anything at all. It was just hovering above them still. These men had very creepy, stern looks on their faces, as if they were intent on doing their job. In the background of this image was unimaginable, indescribable colors, flowing and melding together, sort of pixelated in the way it was done. I witnessed all of this for about 3 seconds before I was literally pulled into the hardest, most forceful, turning and winding feeling at an amazing speed. It was these blue men, pulling me along with them wherever they went. They followed some kinds of roads, the best I can describe it, that went on for eternities and eternities. It was pure and utter hell. I was witnessing all of this. However, I was being zoomed in and out of third person, all the while being flipped and twisted and turned every which way there ever is and will be. I heard awful sounds and screams. After eternities had passed, it seemed as though I had reached a destination. Everything stopped and I went to third person. My coffin flipped up vertically and slammed extremely forceful and hard into a concrete wall. No, wait, I knew what this was. I could literally feel it. This was not a wall, this was a sidewalk. A sidewalk in front of my old house I used to live in, completely out of state. I had become the sidewalk. I could feel every last particle of my being spread across this sidewalk, and it eventually spread onto my old house. I spent decades living as my old house. Everything that it felt, I felt. During this time, I didn't feel so horrible. It was like I had finally felt a little bit of peace and quiet, but this peace and quiet was ripped away from me when the little blue men came back, somehow grabbed every single particle of me and vacuumed it back into the sea through coffin. I spent more and more time, whatever time was, being forcefully dragged and thrown around by these little blue men into various objects. There came a point where these blue men were taking me somewhere, but it was a very familiar place I was headed. I could feel it. They stopped, flipped my coffin up, but wait. What I was being slammed into was not any object at all. It was a very dark, dark shade of green-blue. I was slammed into this color wall and was able to move. I was no longer in the coffin, and it felt as though I was being weighed down by tons and tons of sand. It took every ounce of willpower in me to navigate through this heavy, resistant sand. I started to feel closer to the surface. I wiggled my way up as hard as I could back into the couch and my own body. I was finally back in the real world, sorta. Everything looked as if I was seeing every atom and molecule of everything I saw. It was still extremely refreshing to be back. I had never been more happy in my whole existence as a human being. But these feelings were short-lived. As soon as I forced myself to stand up, I was greeted by my brother, who pushed me back onto the couch and exclaimed, "Dude, you gotta stay down." I fell back onto the couch, but shortly after was transported back to right before he said this. "Dude, you gotta stay down." I heard him yell, and then I fell back onto the couch again. This looped for literal forever, and I thought I was stuck in this looped state for the rest of my life. I was entirely convinced at that moment that I had discovered the truth behind life, which was these blue men forcing me to live meaningless, slow, painful lives as various objects, and that my own brother was in on it. He knew that the blue men would do all of this. He knew they would torture me for eternities on end. I was forcefully dragged back into the blue man world again and lived more and more lives as tables, chairs, water, plants, floors. But these lives seemed to be more depressing and meaningless. They seemed so empty, and eventually I felt as though I died. I completely disconnected from anything and everything there was. I just kinda was. But again, salvia did not keep me grounded in one spot for long. I was hurled into another very familiar scene. It was my old house again, but this time I was inside in the living room. I saw it vividly, every detail of it. I stuck my hand out to signal and say, "What the foo?" But I stopped as I looked at my hand and noticed it was the hand of my father. My father is still very much alive, but is troubled deeply, and I care for him very much. I started to feel every anxiety he had ever felt. Then next thing I knew, I was in my oldest brother's body. It cycled through endless amounts of people and places, and I felt every single feeling that you could ever experience in your life. It was like getting anxiety times infinity, and it was very unpleasant. While all of this was going on, I was hearing loud, high and low-pitched yells coming from all directions. It scared me, and I felt horrible. I'm not sure how I awoke, but I woke up drenched in sweat face, down on my GF's couch, and immediately started saying, "No, never again, I am done, dude, no ong, dude, no gun," to my brother, and then told him I needed water. I stood up and ran over to the sink to drink some water. Everything was still extremely distorted, and I took a huge gulp of water and leaned down into the sink. The next thing I know, I'm being vacuumed into the garbage disposal, and I wake up on the couch with my shirt up. Still woozy and uneasy, but feeling better. It takes me about 45 minutes to be able to function normally again. I look at the time, and it is around 11:15. The trip lasted a very long time. Longer than I feel it should have. I cleaned my Jeef's place, drove my brother to his friend's house, and kept thinking about the trip. It's been about 3 months since the trip. It really scared me at the time, but I feel as though I value my existence on Earth a lot more now. I feel more compassionate towards others and just feel better in general. It was a crazy experience and extremely frightening, but turned out to help me in the long run. If you're gonna try salvia, I suggest going lower on the extract. If you want a mind-blowing and possibly horrifying experience, then do what I did and start a little higher. Keep tripping, everybody. Thank you for reading. Sounds like the Prozac and weed kicked it into overdrive. All the trips I've heard about, including me doing it twice, it only lasted like 5 minutes tops. That's wild. How the fuck was I able to buy that at the gas station when I was a teenager? Because drug laws are inconsistent, illogical, and short-sighted enough to not even capture or regulate some drugs, and what is regulated may be done so out of fear, superstition, etc., and not reflect the actual danger or lack there of a substance may impose. Same. One night being chased around a small bathroom by the devil was enough. God, you'll have some fucked up trips. I got to become Legoman and watch my Lego friends around me click in and out of the Lego chairs we were sitting in Legoland, and it was so awesome for 5 minutes. I'll never do that shit again. I tripped 10 years ago, but I'm still not entirely convinced the trip is over. What a bizarre, interesting, never need to experience again kind of time that was. What's not over about it? Thankfully, I never went deep enough, it sounds like. Smoked a bit and then found myself popping back into existence all over the house. It was like that movie Memento, similar dread associated as well. I think I was trying to escape whatever it was, hence the repeated new locations when I popped back. It's hard to explain. I have a fair bit of experience with mushrooms, but nothing else as far as hallucinogens are concerned. I've never had a feeling like this. I was out for 10, 15 minutes tripping, woke up, and it took a while to reintegrate. 10 years later, as a fully functioning, cognitively sound professional adult, there is still a mild underlying feeling that I could potentially wake up in that setting as if all this time had been part of the experience. It's not an overwhelming sensation, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if that happened. I know exactly what you're talking about. That made me feel that way. It was as though I was always in that space, and this human experience is just some dream that happened yesterday. What a terrifying prospect. I tripped 10 years ago, but I'm still not entirely convinced the trip is over. That's how Philip K. Dick, unique Seth writer, experienced his entire life. He was pretty sure the reality we live in is an illusion, and at one point said he thought this was still biblical times and the modern world we see is fake. Sounds like you don't have it as bad as he did. Go to the mall with my friends and watch a movie at the theater. I'm 39 and I took my 80-year-old neighbor to see Barbie yesterday. She was my 11th grade English teacher and we have a strong bond. Anyone wondering, she laughed and cried as much as I did. She also thanked me profusely for inviting her. If you want to make someone's day, bring an elderly woman to see Barbie. Oh shit, this hit me in the feels. At some point I went to go shopping, have lunch in the food court, and watch a movie for the last time and didn't appreciate it. Yeah, the experience of walking with a group of friends for a few miles to the dollar theater, stopping at the dollar store for candy and snacks, and then watching some film was so awesome, and those days are gone. If I have kids, they can't even do that. I didn't realize it when I moved, but I live in an area with dispersed living and minimal infrastructure, so there are rarely sidewalks, and there's no easy way to navigate from one place to the next without a car. I mean, I love where I am, but it's something I feel sad about. Even myself, I can't even walk to the grocery store and have sidewalks present, just steeply curved shoulders alongside the road. Maybe once we move, I'll try to find a home that's closer to a downtown of one of the smaller city towns. It's hard to explain. I have a fair bit of experience with mushrooms, but nothing else as far as hallucinogens are concerned. I've never had a feeling like this. I was out for 10-15 minutes tripping, woke up, and it took a while to reintegrate. 10 years later, as a fully functioning, cognitively sound professional adult, there is still a mild underlying feeling that I could potentially wake up in that setting, as if all this time had been part of the experience. It's not an overwhelming sensation, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if that happened. Go to a concert where I have to stand. I'm too old for that shit. Please just give me seats. Get married. Get married. Me too. I'm married. Me too. Recently divorced. We have the same answer for apparently opposite reason. Hopefully, drink alcohol 6 years sober. Congrats. Keep it up. I don't believe that I will be strong enough throughout, but I hope I never try to end my life again. I woke up submersed in cold pink water in a hotel bathtub, and that startling moment was as angry as I've ever been, while cleaning, scrubbing the blood up before checking out, and just lamenting that I didn't want anything else from this world. Just let me go. All I wanted was an end, and I couldn't even have that. I was enraged at life in those stark seconds, at the prospect of futility and forceful existence. Mad that I'd kept healthy and healed too fast to stay asleep. Didn't go far enough to stay gone. I stared oblivion in the eye, and we both blinked. I was about 2 hours over my checkout time, but I'd become friendly with the staff, so they didn't charge me the extra day. I don't know about never trying again, but I know failing at it is a depressing, almost insulting return to reality. So, 2 stars wouldn't recommend. The suicide attempt, I mean, not the hotel. It was probably a solid 3. I stared oblivion in the eye, and we both blinked To Pripyat. My oncologist joked that it's probably how I caught cancer. I visited the USA a couple of months after Chernobyl. The advice at the time was to not eat fish or stay out of the rain. Most meals were included in the trip, but we didn't get to pick our entries. It was basically take it or leave it. And we got soaked in the rain, at least once. When I was diagnosed, I couldn't help but wonder if there was a connection. Have friends like I used to when I was 12. Hell, do any of us? Stand by me, here's a little background on me. I've dealt with cancer, losing family members, long-term girlfriends, etc. You know life? Losing my 2 best friends I knew for 40+ years probably hurt the most. The first one I met when I was 5. We went to grade school, high school, and even college together. When his father passed, I immediately flew out to see him and do anything I could to help him through. About 4 or 5 years ago, he inherited a lot of money. The conversations always went to what new toy he just bought himself. It seemed that slowly his personality started to change. He started to indulge in plenty of drinking and drugs. 10 years ago, he looked like Ashton Kutcher. Today he weighs 400 elbs and looks like hell. The worst part, when I was a bit shaken waiting for results from a biopsy, he never even followed up to ask about the result. Later, when I mentioned I was having surgery the following week, he completely forgot and said I didn't know you had surgery. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. Sorry about rambling on. Maybe it's sort of a therapy for me. Mither, 17 years sober, didn't realize it had been so long. Was feeling like shit today, but that's cheered me up. So glad I'm nowhere near having that life. I remember sitting on a bed somewhere, use your imagination, just praying to a god I didn't believe in to get me out of there. Had a lot of hell from that point still to come, but that was the tipping point. I was going to leave that life if I had to go scorched earth on everything. I had to go scorched earth on everything. I had everyone I knew. Except to reconcile after husband's infidelity. It's hell. I'm sorry. Hugs to you. My husband told me he is not in love with me. War. Would not recommend. 110. Smoking cigarette. Be a police dispatcher. I did it for 2 months. My co-workers sucked and were super annoying, but I found the job to be pretty easy up until I got a call from someone whose friend posted suicidal stuff online, and they are calling to do a welfare check. A few months before I was that person calling, and my friend ended up killing himself. I froze, decided it's not for me. My co-workers all being dogshit people didn't help. One was super racist against Asian people. Anytime someone would have an Asian name after she got off the phone with them, she would either say they speak very good English, or they don't speak die English, or they don't speak die English. Very well, a guy got shot and called 911 for help and died on the phone with one of my co-workers. When she was describing the call to us, she was crying laughing when describing the guy gasping for air and playing it out for us. She also talked about all the time she drank and drive. I reported her to here there. I reported her to whore, then a couple of months later, she was chosen as Dispatcher of the Year. Every sentence, just worse and worse. Download a car. Drink until I'm drunk. I have a drink like once a year, and one is more than enough. Accept someone cheating on me, hopefully. In the past, I've chosen to keep the relationship going because of things like sunken cost fallacy, keeping the family intact, etc. But it's just not worth it. The price I paid and still pay every day is too high, and in the case of my ex-wife, the cheating didn't stop. Trust a fart. Honestly, porn. I'm only a teenager, and it definitely made my life worse. Haven't been on there since last August. Quitting definitely made me happier and changed my life for the better.